Denver needs housing. Downtown offices are empty. What would it take to transform workplaces into homes? Erasing the redlining that segregated housing still isn't easy.
There's all these different excuses when we know what the real excuse is. It's because you're black.
The capital conversation turns to air pollution just as part of the Suncor plant catches fire. Colorado sees 1,000 COVID cases in a day, first time since February. I just want someone to tell us when to pay attention again. Springtime is a nasty time to fall into the water in our state.
And I think that's the deceiving part. Weather's great. Oh, it's so hot. You hit that water, I mean, it's 56 degrees.
And I think Denver's missing out on more than just a two-time MVP with the Nuggets blacked out on television. All that is next. Just mention all the empty office space downtown, and I can hear you talking back through the television. Why don't you turn it into housing? Because, of course, we need housing, and work from home has left offices abandoned. Flipping them into housing is not cheap or easy. But our Steve Staker found some commercial landlords who are looking at it.
One look at Denver's skyline today, it's hard to believe the Petroleum Building near the 16th Street Mall and Broadway ever was a skyscraper. But it was.
So the building was built in 1957, was the tallest building in Denver for about a week until the now Sheridan across the street was built.
When the oil companies moved out, other businesses moved offices in, until the walloping we saw the last few years.
And so it was already a little vacant, and then when COVID hit, tenants went out of business and our vacancy rate just plummeted.
John Borst is part of the ownership group of that building, which just submitted plans to the city to convert the old office building into a full or partial apartment building with up to 150 units.
So our building is actually really conducive to an apartment footprint.
Adaptive reuse is a tool that downtowns have been using for decades to revitalize vacant office structures.
Courtney Garrett is the CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership and a proponent of adaptive use, turning existing buildings into something else, like an office into an apartment. A quarter of the commercial office space downtown is vacant post-pandemic. Garrett says at least some of it could help meet demand the city is seeing now.
Demand for living, demand for entertainment, hotel, the visitor traffic. I think COVID has actually opened up an opportunity for us to take some of these structures that were perhaps struggling before and give them new life.
It isn't easy or cheap to do these kinds of conversions, but it's better for the environment, and the city is willing to incentivize it. Right now, only 10% of downtown is residential. The city's planning department would rather that be closer to 30 or 40%.
We think that there's a great opportunity in downtown to become another vibrant neighborhood of Denver that includes office.
Arguments against adaptive reuse have been it's often cheaper to just tear a building down and build it up from scratch. But inflation and supply chain challenges are making it harder to buy construction materials, thus making this a much better option. Plus, the average new construction materials emit about 23% of carbon to the atmosphere. So you've got that environmental concern with new construction.
Yeah.
But also, you could build some pretty cool spaces with what already exists. It just used to cost a lot. Now it's getting a little bit cheaper, and it might make it a little bit easier to do this.
That said, they're building new office space. We were just talking like last week about how they're building the largest office-only building in decades downtown.
I know our director Lawrence was really upset when we were talking about the vacancy rate downtown and didn't mention that. The difference is that's Class A office space. So you think a lot of businesses are starting to kind of restructure how they're doing things, and they're thinking, I need less of a footprint. I'm going to get a nice, fancy office, the glass that might attract people to come downtown. The Class B kind of slides to the back. So a lot of the Class B office owners, mid-century modern offices like that, they're kind of thinking maybe we need to do something else with this space until there's a demand for this type of office space again.
Very, very interesting. Also glad we both got the window pane memo today. Steve, thank you. Redlining left scars of segregation on Denver's neighborhoods, lasting impacts on who lives where, who can get loans where, and that continues to shape the city. City that was pushing back on history as well as real estate reality with some targeted help. Our Byron Reed talked to one of the first families to receive it.
Oh man, it's tough. It's very frustrating.
For the past 10 years,
Yeah, I'm looking for something.
Dontrell Starks has been on a tough path to buying a bigger home for his family.
We live in Park Hill. There are 7 of us, and there's only 3 bedrooms. You know, and 2 of my children are autistic. My twins are autistic, so we need room.
Starks says even though he has a credit score of 800, he's had difficulties securing a home loan.
It always comes down to you can't qualify for this, or the money that you have wasn't sitting in the bank long enough, or all these different excuses when we know what the real excuse is. It's because you're black.
We're here to talk to you today.
So he decided to apply for a new Metro Down Payment Assistance Social Equity program started by the city of Denver. The housing program gives down payment assistance of either $15,000 or $25,000 to qualified applicants who have lived in or descendants of families who have lived in the city's redline neighborhoods.
Redlining was an assessment of risk by banks and government institutions to say where was a safe or good investment. And unfortunately, those were very much categorized with race.
Britta Fisher is the city's Housing Stability Executive Director and says the program is targeted for people who lived in Denver's redline neighborhoods from 1938 to 2000. The goal is to help increase home ownership in communities of color.
Equity is a core value to the city of Denver, and we're making decisions with our budget and with programs like this to align our values and say that we no longer want race to predict housing outcomes.
Both agree the program is a start to repairing some racial disparities.
And in actual reality, it's just not enough, but it is a good step. It's a good first step.
And the next leg in Dontrell's journey to give his family the room they need.
I'm working on it now, and I hope it works.
For Next,
I'm optimistic that it'll work.
I'm Byron Reed.
A lot of details to the program. Here are the basics. The city says applicants can receive up to 5% of their total mortgage amount as a no-interest loan. That loan's forgiven if they stay in the home for 3 years. Today, Colorado's legislators talked about cracking down on air pollution, and the largest oil refinery in town caught fire. The emergency message from the Suncor plant told neighbors that while they may see smoke, no immediate action is needed. Democrats in the state legislature disagree. Today, on a party line vote, they advanced a bill that would create emissions limits based on public health. The bill would also reinforce that Colorado's air pollution rules can be stricter than federal standards. Suncor said today's fire was put out and no workers were hurt. Different people are at different places with COVID-19 right now, and that's okay. That's what public health experts are recommending. Know your health, your risk tolerance, and then act accordingly. I'm kind of at the I'm going to do life and you tell me when I should be concerned again phase. So we took that to our trusted voices on COVID-19 today, whether the current numbers concern them enough that we should be talking about it here again. Because this is what we're looking at. There's a steadily increasing positivity rate that's now up to 6.6% of tests coming back positive. You've got a highly contagious strain of Omicron circulating, but it's less dangerous than the previous variants. We also know that this is just a pure numbers game. Even when you have a less serious variant, you get enough people sick, and we are going to see some hospitalizations. We're going to see some cases of long COVID. We're going to see some deaths. The state health department's been pretty laid back lately, and they told us today that they're watching hospitalization numbers before they change any of their messages for the public. We called up UC Health's infectious disease specialist, Dr. Michelle Barrett, who's been with us from the start on this, and she told us she's watching a couple of things.
We're looking at the positivity rate because obviously that often dictates how many hospitalizations are going to occur. It's not the same as it was with Omicron, where there was a very strong correlation between positivity and hospital rates. Obviously, that can continue to evolve. So the higher the number, the more we anticipate seeing. And everything's sort of creeping up slowly, not at some crazy trajectory. Hospital capacity is obviously something that we have to continue to manage. Especially if we do start to see a huge rise in the number of cases. And then severity is the other thing because that impacts how long people stay in the hospital.
Colorado does not currently have an issue with hospital bed capacity or ICU capacity. Dr. Barron says she's not even ready to call this newest round of rising cases and test rates a wave. She said could just be a bump, though she said she has seen some projections that do expect a significant increase in hospitalizations in the next few weeks. So know your health, assess your risk tolerance, make informed choices. I'll see you out there. Hey, my thanks to all of you on behalf of the 3 nonprofits that you boosted last week through your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign. Your 100th weekly campaign raised nearly $35,000 for Mikasa Resource Center, the Learning Source, Volunteers for Outdoor Colorado. If I'd been thinking ahead, this 101st week would have been a Dalmatian rescue, but it's missed opportunity. As you approach $9 million raised for Colorado's nonprofits, please do keep sending me ideas on where we can help together. Next at 9news.com is the best email, and I read each and every one.
Nighttime is usually the calm time when it comes to new wildfires in Colorado. Not anymore. Your money or your life. Not wearing a life jacket could cost you either. And the unseen MVP. The TV blackout means fans are missing out on Nikola Jokic, and I think we're missing out on something more. That's next.
Colorado Parks and Wildlife is warning people at the start of this boating season you can get a ticket in our state for not wearing a life jacket on a boat. But the warning that is playing out in real time at Cherry Creek Reservoir carries a whole lot more weight because recovery teams have still not found the body of the man who went missing while tubing on Saturday night. 29-year-old guy. He was being pulled by a boat, fell off his tube, and vanished. CPW says he was not wearing a life jacket. So let's go through it. Here are the life jacket rules in our states. There has to be one life vest in the boat for each person, but only kids 12 and younger have to be wearing them all the time. The rules change, though, when you're on a jet ski or you're wakeboarding or being towed by a boat, like on a tube. Then the life jacket is required at all times for all ages.
So we do have rangers and temporary staff and full-time staff that is their sole job, especially on our holiday weekends and busier weekends. From the statewide team, we have a traveling boating safety team that does hit different lakes, and we are primarily enforcing safety requirements, safety carriage requirements. It is a $100 fine, so there's a monetary fine associated with that, be it you not having a life jacket or your child not being in a jacket when they need one.
Grant Brown, who you heard from there, is CPW's Boating Safety Program Manager, and he says, especially this time of year, he's always wearing a life jacket on the water. When you could have a 90-degree day and fall into 40 or 50-degree water. Grant was saying that even strong swimmers' bodies can fail them with that kind of temperature shock.
Hazy sunshine over the Denver skyline today with temperatures that range from the low 70s in Denver to the mid 90s in southern Colorado. Winds will be increasing ahead of a sluggish trough of low pressure off to the west. All the moisture will go north, but with those winds ramping up, red flag warnings, fire weather watch areas will be posted tonight through tomorrow. Critical fire weather conditions setting up for Wednesday when we could see record high temperatures. We have very little moisture coming in the form of cloud cover or rain. So upper 70s Tuesday, fire weather watch near 90 Wednesday, cooler Thursday, and then 70s with sunshine heading into next weekend.
Reports today indicate that the Nuggets' Nikola Jokic will win his second straight NBA MVP award this week. It is more than a shame that so much of Colorado can't watch him play.
Nikola Jokic has the type of talent that can create NBA fans. The type of talent, the what he do, what's he gonna do next, what can't he do? The type of talent that will have Coloradans saying a generation from now, you know, I saw him play. So what a shame that so few Coloradans can see him play. The altitude Comcast blackout 2.5 years now. It's robbing Coloradans of the easiest way to watch the casual brilliance of Nikola Jokic. State legislators even considered that they would get involved this year, but didn't. Jokic's second MVP makes it clear that we are missing more than basketball. We're missing a chance to create new NBA fans. The kind of chance, kind of talent that does not come along often. New beginnings in Boulder County. We meet the couple who just got the first Marshall Fire rebuilding permit there.
We've lived here about 18 years. We started building 18 years ago the first time.
Colorado has had its 98th red flag warning of the year today, a record. Fire danger so bad, forecasters are now putting out warnings for the nighttime. That should cause us to worry. We'll talk about it next.
One of the first homes to burn in the Marshall Fire is going to be one of the first to be rebuilt. First building permit in the unincorporated Boulder County part of that burn area went to the Deckers. Dan and Pam say their kids helped them search for builders and architects within 2 days of the fire. It burned their home in Marshall, right down the road from where investigators think the fire started. The next 4.5 months following the fire, they said it's been a navigation of confusing process, filing insurance claims, figuring out how to get the property cleaned up. They say they finally have some hope.
We've just cried every day. We've just lost everything, photos, memories, I mean, just everything. And so we're finally feeling like there's a way of coming out of it, I think.
If all goes to plan, the Deckers hope to move into their new place sometime around February or March of next year. The process could take far longer for the people who are still waiting for debris to be removed from their properties. They haven't even been able to start that permitting process. 2022 has been unusually dry and windy so far, and now fire weather has hit a new level of unusual. There are now red flag warnings at night. So normally, those fire weather warnings expire when the sun goes down because, temperature drops, humidity rises, situation gets safer. Not last night. Here's meteorologist Corey Rappenhagen.
The 98th red flag warning of the year was issued Monday. That's the most ever in Colorado to this point in a year. And it was the 6th time the fire weather risk category reached extreme. The most in an entire year was 7 back in 2011. But this year's unusual fire weather hit a new level on Sunday night. Fire weather conditions were so poor that the National Weather Service had to extend a red flag warning through the overnight hours in southern Colorado. According to data they posted, less than 1% of red flag warnings happen between midnight and 6 a.m., while more than 80% happen in the afternoon. Normally, humidity levels go up enough at night to drop the weather conditions below red flag criteria. The winds generally die down at night, too. In Trinidad on Sunday night, the humidity didn't even get above 15% until 4 o'clock in the morning. This is a disturbing trend that scientists have been seeing in their research. In March, CU Boulder published a new study that showed nighttime red flag conditions are 45% more likely now than they were in 1979. The study showed that the loss of moisture through evaporation and the lack of overnight humidity recovery was more impactful to drought and wildfire than the lack of precipitation. That's especially true in Colorado, where even average precipitation is still relatively low. Meteorologist Corey Rappenhagen, 9 News.
Today's red flag warning for the Denver area was called off this afternoon. There's still a warning until 9 p.m. down in southeast Colorado. We have a sign for you of some mild destruction. That and your feedback next. It's a sign that the regrowing process is a slow one, especially when it comes to regrowing fences. Doug says it's been 3 months and he's still waiting for that fence to revegetate. He spotted this at the East Lake Nature Preserve in Thornton. The sign is to keep people off the growing grass, but Doug says he smiles every time he passes what used to be a fence. Nichelle writes in to say thank you for that story on housing, race, and redlining. She says, I've been talking about this for years. Lois writes in to say word of thanks is the best club I've ever belonged to. Thank you for the opportunity. That made my day, Lois. And Kelly says, Kyle, your hair and eyebrows look positively orange tonight. Kelly, either it is your TV or you are the only one who is honest with me. We'll see you next time.